Hey Rip City, this is Matisse Leibel, and it's time to open the briefcase with Casey Holdahl.
Greetings, Blazer fans, and welcome to The Briefcase, episode 102 of The Briefcase. I'm your host, Casey Holdahl, and draft day business is finally completed for the Portland Trail Blazers. Officially official. Deni Avdija officially on the Trail Blazers. Summer League roster officially locked in. The second round pick trades also completed. And now the Trail Blazers can move forward, preparing not only for Summer League, but for the 2024-25 season, which is just a few months away. On this edition of The Briefcase, we'll discuss those trades finally going official. We'll check in on Deandre Ayton and his quest to get the Bahamas into the Olympics in basketball for the first time in their history. And we'll check out the Summer League roster and hear from Donovan Clingan after his first practice with the Trail Blazers on this edition of The Briefcase. While the public has already known all the information about these trades for the most part, maybe a few details here and there that need to get fleshed out by the press releases, generally, everyone has known since the draft the Trail Blazers had acquired Deni Avdija, and they also knew that the Trail Blazers had traded both of their second-round picks in exchange for other second-round picks that they then sold for cash considerations. But now that everything is officially squared away after July 6th, for a number of reasons, with Deni Avdija, you had to get to the next NBA season because of some of the stipulation in the CBA. Kind of the same idea with the second-round picks as well. I believe the issue there was that one of the teams, I think maybe the Warriors, that had already used all of the money that you're allowed to use to buy picks or to offset money in terms of buyouts. I think they had already used all that money, so they had to get to the next NBA season in order for that account to recoup, so then they could pay the Trail Blazers for those picks. But either way, all that stuff is now squared away. Everyone is where they're supposed to be on the team that we've all known they were going to be on for the last 10, 11 days. But now that it's official, let's just go ahead and run them down real fast. So first off, Trail Blazers acquired forward Deni Avdija from the Washington Wizards in exchange for Malcolm Brogdon, the draft rights to the 14th overall selection in the 2024 NBA draft, which was Bud Carrington, along with a 2029 first-round pick, a 2028 second-round pick, and a 2030 second-round pick. The first-round pick, I believe, is the second best of the three picks that the Trail Blazers have. I believe one of those picks was when they got in the Bucks trade for Damian Lillard. The second rounders, I got no idea. It's almost impossible to keep track of second-round picks these days. Who has which picks have been traded 3 or 4 times. Basically, at this point, you get to the draft, and if you're on the board that says you're getting a second-round pick at that time, that's how you know. I mean, the team knows, but for those of us, it's a little hard to track sometimes. But getting back to Deni Avdija, the 9th overall selection by the Washington Wizards of the 2020 draft, posted a career-high 14.7 points on 50% shooting from the field, actually 51% shooting from the field, and 37% shooting from three, 7.2 rebounds, 3.8 assists, and 0.8 steals in 30.1 minutes per game in 75 games last season, all of those starts. His field goal percentage, his three-point percentage, and his rebound numbers last season, all career highs for Deni, and assists for that matter too, at 3.8 per game, and minutes. Basically, he posted career highs in a lot of the main categories, had his best season. I don't know how many people saw it because of the way that the Wizards were playing last season. So they're kind of the same idea with the Trailblazers, and I would say a guy like Deandre Ayton in the second half of the season. I just feel like people didn't realize how good he had been because I think people probably weren't paying a whole lot of attention to the Trailblazers game, particularly in the second half of the season. Deni Avdija kind of in the same situation, played phenomenally last year, had a career year last year. I just don't know how many people were paying attention to it. Portland Trailblazers obviously went out and made that deal to get Deni. In his 4th season out of Maccabi, he has accrued career averages of 9.8 points on 45% shooting from the field, 32% shooting from three. That's one thing about Deni Avdija's last season, a much better three-point shooting season last year than any other time in his career. The hope is that's going to continue going forward. If that is the case, being a 37% three-point shooter would be phenomenal, particularly when you're also shooting 50% from the field. That's very helpful for this team. He will wear number 8. For Kris Murray wore 8 last season. He is kindly giving up the jersey to Deni Avdija. Kris is now wearing 10, though he hasn't decided if he's going to stick with 10 for next season, but he is wearing it at Summer League, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But back to Deni Avdija, obviously a guy who gives you a lot of pieces that you need, fills a lot of holes for this team, both positionally and from a skills perspective. The team absolutely views Avdija as a part of their young core, along with guys like Scoot and Shaedon and DeAndre and Ant, a young versatile wing that gets it done on both ends of the floor. And that's saying defensively, I don't know that people necessarily know how good of a defender Deni Avdija is. I think they're going to find out pretty quickly. Oren, my guy here, who covers the Trailblazers, who's from Israel, was giving me the download on Deni. And one of the main things he said was that he always wants to defend the other team's best player, which is something, again, this Portland Trailblazers team has needed for a while. They need hard-nosed defensive players who want to compete on that end of the floor. Deni Avdija, absolutely one of those guys. One of the goals heading into this offseason for the Trailblazers is to be more versatile versatile, both in terms of scoring and defense and shooting and playmaking. Deni Avdija, again, gives you some of that. A guy who can absolutely play make from that 3-4 position. And really, again, they view Deni as a long-term piece of this team. So, having to give up the 14th pick in this draft and then the 2029 first round pick, whichever one ends up being, again, I think it's the second of the three. I think for a lot of people, the 2029, that's kind of a price that I think some people look at and say, like, it feels a little steep. But again, on one hand, that's 5 years away. I'm not all that concerned about those kind of things right now. And really, if he is a foundational piece for this team, I think giving up a mid-first round pick makes a whole lot of sense to go with the 14th pick in this draft, which, I know once the draft gets here, there's always this inclination like, well, can you really trade a draft pick? But, a week before the draft, if you were like, hey, they're going to trade the 14th pick and they're going to end up with Deni Avdija, I feel like people would be ecstatic about it. And people were super excited about it anyways. It's a great trade for the Portland Trail Blazers. Again, maybe a little rich for some people, but getting Deni Avdija, a guy who, again, I think solves a lot of problems for this team, a guy who is right in that timeline where he can come in and provide some veteran leadership while also being young and growing with this team is something that I think they've needed a forward for so long here in Portland. It just seems to me that like it was one of those things where it's like, whatever it takes, we need to get someone in here who we feel very good about playing at the 3-4, who we feel like can be a starter for this team, that can really be a part of this team going forward. And in Deni Avdija, I feel like you have a guy who you can pencil into that spot for some time and feel very, very good about it. So that trade now done. As I understand it, Deni's going to be in town on Monday for a press conference, so we'll have coverage from that. And a guy who I would hope maybe he's going to spend some time here in Portland in the offseason and maybe kind of build some camaraderie. Never hurts to build a little bit of chemistry before the season starts. Again, Blazers still building, still about talent, still about getting better, not so much about wins and losses next season. But it never hurts to just have a group of guys come in and all kind of get to know each other a little bit before the season starts. Hopefully that'll be the case with Deni. Either way, we are going to talk to him on Monday, as I understand it, so we'll have more then. All right, in terms of the second trade that Portland Trail Blazers executed during the draft, no players involved in this one for the Trail Blazers, but they did acquire the draft rights to the 52nd overall pick in the 2024 draft and cash considerations from Oklahoma City in exchange for the draft rights to the 40th selection overall of the 2024 NBA draft, which is Osimiri Ighodaro, who did work out for the Trailblazers, by the way. In a subsequent transaction, the Trailblazers sent the draft rights to the 52nd selection in the 2024 draft, which ended up being Quentin Post, who also worked out for the Trailblazers, by the way. Actually, I think in the workout with Oso Ighodaro, oddly enough, to the Golden State Warriors in exchange for cash considerations. So the Trailblazers trade 2 picks, end up with cash considerations, and that's that. As I mentioned on draft night, the Trailblazers with 15 players, so even if they had used one of those picks, potentially they might have to cut that player, might have to send that player to the G League. My understanding is, in terms of two-way contracts, which I think a lot of people assume that a lot of guys in this draft are going to take two-way contracts, particularly in the second round, seeing as how it's not a very well thought of draft. This doesn't really seem to be the case. Trailblazers did sign Justin Minaya to a two-way contract for the second straight year. Congratulations, Justin Minaya, on that. And I believe they have one more open. Maybe Ibu Baji has it. I actually don't recall exactly. But Baji not on the summer league team, so I don't know what that means, actually. I'll have to give you an update on that at some point in time. But in regards to the second round picks that happened at the draft, those are now completed. Those trades are done, in the books. Cash considerations for the Trailblazers, a couple second round picks for the Warriors, and we all move on. In other non-trade, non-summer league news, Deandre Ayton and Team Bahamas, one game away from qualifying for the Olympics. The Bahamas roster, which features Deandre Ayton, Buddy Hield, and Eric Gordon, have won their first 3 games in the qualifiers in Valencia. One more game going up against Spain, the host country, with a trip to the 2024 Olympics in Paris on the line. The Bahamas has never qualified for the men's Olympic tournament. They are one game away from doing so. In order for them to get to the qualifiers, they had to win 4 games in Argentina, including 2 games against Argentina, to just get to the qualifier this summer. The Bahamas defeated Finland and Poland in group play to move on to the semis, where they beat Lebanon 87-72 Saturday morning here in Portland. Deandre Ayton with 24 points, 15 rebounds, a block, assist, and a steal in 32 minutes in the win. Deandre is averaging 30.3 points on 68% shooting from the field, 11 rebounds, 1.7 assists, and 1.3 steals in 34.7 minutes per game for the Bahamas. And as I mentioned, to get into the Olympics, they're going to have to beat Spain in Valencia on Sunday morning here in Portland, 11:30 start time for that one. Usually in years past, beating Spain would be a difficult enough task as it is, let alone Spain in Spain. But the Spaniards have fallen off quite a bit, kind of their golden generation, a lot of the guys that we associate with Spanish basketball. So players, like the Gasals and Rudy Fernandez and Sergio Garcia and Juan Carlos Navarro and Sergio Llull and the Hernan Gomez's, that generation is starting to kind of They're on the way out, and they haven't looked great in the tournament. So the Bahamas, with a real chance to qualify there, would be such a phenomenal thing for Deandre Ayton and the Bahamas to get that trip to the Paris Olympics. And actually, let's go ahead and hear real fast from Deandre Ayton after their win versus Lebanon, talking about the importance of the win for the Bahamas, for himself, for his teammates.
How important is this win for Bahamas basketball?
It's truly important. We're making history as we go on throughout this tournament. The better team won tonight. We stuck together. It was a tough game. And, hats off to our opponent.
What do you expect for tomorrow's final?
Tomorrow's final is going to be the toughest game probably of our career. Best thing we can do is just go back and get off our feet and watch film and be ready for those guys. We know tonight's going to be a big game for whoever wins this game, and we just got to be ready for them tomorrow.
You have been playing for a long time, but how important is this final in your career?
This is really big. This is bigger than any Western Conference Finals. You're fighting for your country, and it's guys like us that don't get paid for this. We're just trying to set a bar high for our generation, and just trying to set that basketball mark and get opportunities out our little island, the Bahamas, and show that we can, us too can make it out and come to big opportunities like this.
Talked a lot about when he got to Portland about being a leader and wanting to kind of do a better job of that. And, I really saw it in Portland. I feel like he's doing that with the Bahamas as well. They're putting it on the line to try to get something accomplished. And again, like as I mentioned, they had to win 4 games, including being Argentina twice in Argentina, just to get to the point where they could play in the qualifiers for the Olympics. So if they end up actually winning versus Spain, I think they'll have gone 8-0 in pre-qualifiers and qualifiers to get to the Olympics, which when you're a team that's never been there before, to have to go through the gauntlet they've been through in order to even have the chance to qualify is pretty impressive. So really hoping that the Bahamas is able to get that done. By the time you listen to this, we might know actually, but either way, by Sunday afternoon, we'll know whether or not Deandre Ayton and the Bahamas are heading to Paris for the Olympics, or if they're heading home and Spain is going back for one more try. Best of luck, Deandre and the Bahamas. All right, last but certainly not least, Portland Trail Blazers had their first Summer League practice Saturday afternoon at their facility in Tualatin. Team released their Summer League roster a few days ago. Kris Murray, Rayan, Rupert, and Donovan Clingan, the only players who are under contract for next season who are playing for Portland's Summer League team, and just Mania, who's on a 2-way contract, as I mentioned earlier. So no Shaedon Sharpe, no Scoot Henderson, no Toumani Camara, though all 3 of those players were at practice on Saturday at the practice facility, for the most part, just taking in the practice. So they're going to be around the team, even if they're not necessarily going to play with the team, which also too, not at all surprising for me. And I know that there's some fans who would like for Scoot to play, which I completely understand. But between the injury that he suffered after the first 3 quarters of last year's Summer League and the minutes he already played last year, the role that he already played last year, would it hurt for Scoot to play in Summer League? I mean, if he got injured, yes. Is he going to gain a whole lot from it? I don't really think that's the case. I never thought that Scoot was likely to play at Summer League. I mean, I would like to see him play because I always want to see young players play, but it's not at all a weird thing that he's not playing. And I know that people are like, well, Brandon Miller's going to play. If Brandon Miller plays more than 2 games at Summer League, I would be very surprised. My understanding is he's playing for the select team as they prepare the Team USA to head to Paris. So I know he's on the roster. I doubt that he's playing a whole lot of minutes, if any. If Scoot hadn't got injured in last year's Summer League, I imagine he probably plays this time around. If he hadn't played, 68 games and a ton of minutes, I imagine he plays this time around. But between those 2 things, the risks probably outweigh the reward, which is why he's not playing. Kind of same thing with the other 2 guys as well. Shaedon, healthy, but probably a little bit too good at this point in time for Summer League, and also a guy too where, you really need him to go into the season healthy after having his season ended early by that core muscle surgery last year. So not at all a surprise to me that Shaedon isn't playing. Actually, I don't really think anyone thought Shaedon was likely to play. He was doing some stuff with Team Canada. He was at practice, as I mentioned, on Saturday. So I don't know if that means that he's not with Team Canada anymore, if Team Canada is taking a break. I know he's not going to play with Team Canada this year, but I believe he was at least practicing with them. I don't know exactly what the status of that is. Shaedon should be on that team, by the way. So not taking him, I think, is a odd decision by the Canadians, but hey, best of luck, guys. But either way, Shaedon also not playing at Summer League, but I'm guessing is going to be in Tualatin and probably in Las Vegas as well, at least taking in some of those games, maybe even practicing with the team from time to time. I don't know if that's the case necessarily, but I could see that happening. And then in regards to Toumani, who also had his season ended last year early, just a little bit early with that rib injury, at practice today, great to see him. Again, I don't think that Toumani is likely to play. The Summer League roster, they can make changes to that. In fact, I was already told that Toumani wasn't going to play at Summer League, so I'm just going to assume that that's the case. That hasn't changed. But again, those guys are around still, and so they're getting an opportunity to practice with the team and to kind of build a little bit of chemistry, both on and off the court, with guys like Donovan Clingan, guys like Kris Murray, guys like Rayan Rupert. But particularly with Donovan Clingan, a guy who is going to be incredibly important for the guards and vice versa, getting those guys in the same building, having them, again, getting to know each other a little bit, build some chemistry, build some camaraderie, whether that's on the court or off the court, a great thing. And that's really the most important part, is just getting a little familiarity at Summer League. Those are the takeaways for me at Summer League, not necessarily like, oh, what did Scoot do in 4 games at Summer League, or what did Toumani do in 4 games at Summer League? For me, it's really, how did you get better? Did you improve? Did you show some growth? And those are the kind of things that I think you can do in practices. Maybe not as well as in games, but almost as well as in games, at least in a Summer League game, where you're going up against a lot of guys who are not going to end up in the NBA anyways. And in regards to the Trailblazers' schedule at the Las Vegas Summer League, first game Saturday, July 13th versus San Antonio Spurs, 6 o'clock start time, Thomas and Mack Arena on ESPN2, Donovan Clingan versus Stephen Castle, a couple of teammates at UConn in that one, going up against each other for the first time. Monday, July 15th, Philadelphia 76ers, 5:30 start time, also Thomas and Mack Arena, that one on NBA TV. Next day, Tuesday, versus the Washington Wizards, 5:30 start time, Thomas and Mack Arena, also on NBA TV. And then finally, they wrap up their group play Friday, July 19th versus Charlotte Hornets, 8 p.m., Cox Pavilion on ESPN2. That is actually the last game of group play at the Las Vegas Summer League before it goes on to tournament play, which is really just the top 4 teams playing against each other in a semifinal, then those 2 teams playing each other in a final, the winner of which wins the Las Vegas Summer League Championship, which the Portland Trailblazers have done twice. And for the other 26 teams, they play 1 more game and then head home. So the Blazers guaranteed at least 5 games. Check out Las Vegas if you haven't ever been out for Summer League. Great time. Hey, if you came out Monday morning, you could catch 2 games and then leave Tuesday night, no one would ever be the wiser. Portland's first practice, a pretty long practice today. The team said they were going to open up around 5 o'clock, didn't open up to around 5:45, so getting in some good sweat, a good burn. And for Donovan Clingan, this is the first chance for him to really get out there and play since the national championship game. Guy like Donovan Clingan working out, solo workouts during the pre-draft process, so hasn't played a whole lot of versus actual opponents since that national championship game versus Purdue. Had an opportunity to do that today at the practice facility in Tualatin. First time practicing since signing his contract with the Trailblazers on July 4th. So let's go ahead and hear from Donovan Clingan after his first practice as a Portland Trailblazer Saturday in Tualatin as the team prepares for the Las Vegas Summer League. So first practice, how'd it go?
It was great. Just to be out there with the guys and get ready to go out and, battle in Summer League, it felt great. I dreamed of, being here, being in this moment. So, I'm not going to take it lightly and I can take it for granted. I gave my all and I'm just here to learn and get better every day.
What are maybe some of the things you're working on or focusing on during this couple weeks of play here going into Vegas?
Yeah, really just understanding the style of play, how they play, how they see me, being impactful on both sides of the ball. I just really just try to pick up on little things, pick up on, how certain teammates play when, off certain reads, really just trying to pick up on the little things that, could help build those connections, in Vegas that, helps me and, my teammates, perform at a high level.
Anybody in particular stand out to you?
Today was fun. It was a lot of fun just to be out here and, battle again. I feel like the last time I went live was the national title game. So, just to come out here and battle, Kris, Justin, everyone really. It was just fun. I'm just very happy to be here. I'm excited to keep, working, keep getting better, keep learning, and, really excited for Vegas.
What's been the first kind of big adjustment for you?
The pace. I feel like, they pushed that ball up the floor quick off the defensive glass. Getting down on offense, getting back on defense. Both sides of the ball, they're going to push as hard as possible. So really, just being able to go up and down. I feel like is what the biggest wake up so far.
How far along you were just in terms of kind of get to know some of these guys? Obviously, been in that camaraderie in the summertime is pretty important.
Yeah, I feel like every day you come in, you talk to them in the locker room, you talk to them in the training room, weight room, you talk to them, just walking around. You get to know everyone a little more every day, and I feel like from what I've seen so far, we got a great locker room with a bunch of great guys, and I'm really excited to build great relationships with these dudes.
How much of a chance have you had to settle in or let it hit you? Because 10 days ago you're drafted, and now
You're here practicing with the Blazers?
I mean, I feel like it's settled in. You know, I'm here, I'm practicing. I feel like that's when it really settled in. But, you know, I'm right to work, right to, you know, just trying to get better, trying to pick up as much as I can right now in the summer and, you know, bring it into the season. Really just try to get better and just be the best person I can, be the best player I can this year, especially in Vegas.
What do you want to get out of Summer League?
You know, really just get better. You know, get a feel for how, you know, the NBA, you know, is played. You know, I want to see what I need to work out leading into the season. You know, see what I, you know, need to keep getting better at. You know, things that I did well that, you know, maybe I just need to keep getting better at. You know, so I'm just excited to go out there and compete. You know, I haven't really competed since the national title, like I said. So, you know, I'm excited to go out there, compete, and, you know, just battle.
I know it's only been a couple days and you've probably been in the gym a lot, but what are your first impressions of Oregon?
I love it. I mean, I feel like, you know, I'm an outdoors guy. So, you know, I mean, it's just, it's a beautiful state. You know, I mean, I don't have my car up here yet, so I really can't explore too much. So, and, you know, it's been a little hot these past couple of days, but it's just getting me ready for Vegas.
You played out here a couple of years ago for PK, right?
Yeah, last year. Yeah, we played out here last year. Won that tournament. That was awesome. I love winning.
Thank you. Thanks, Donovan.
Great stuff there from Donovan Clingan. Super excited. That was my main takeaway from Donovan Clingan is he's just very excited to get this thing started. It's always great when guys come to Portland and are excited about it. You know, we always hear so much, or not so much, but, you know, the whole thing is always like, oh, guys, free agents, they don't want to come to Portland, so on and so forth. So when you have guys who are very excited about the opportunity to play here, it just feels a little nice. Always makes you appreciate those guys a little bit more. Donovan Clingan, absolutely stoked to be here. Really looking forward to get on the court. I think you guys are going to be maybe, I don't know if I'd say surprised, but I think Donovan Clingan's a better player than a lot of people think. That shot of his, man, and I know that people don't, I know that there's always this kind of back and forth about whether or not big men should shoot threes. The guy's got a really clean stroke. He's going to be shooting some threes. I already lost that bet with Joe Freeman way back when about Yusuf Nurkic shooting three-pointers, so I probably shouldn't dip my toes back into that again, but I'll say Donovan Clingan averages 1.5 three-point attempts per game at Summer League. Not exactly a crazy prediction, but for a guy who didn't take hardly any at UConn, maybe none in his 2 seasons at UConn, taking almost 2 a game, it's the NBA. It's what bigs do. And that's going to do it for this edition of The Briefcase. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, we'll have coverage from practice. We'll also have coverage from the Deni Avdija press conference, which is scheduled for Monday. Let's go to trailblazers.com to find all of that content and more. Follow us on social, whichever things you're using these days. And please be sure to subscribe to The Briefcase wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube if you happen to be watching this. New shows throughout the week, both from Tualatin, from Portland, and from Las Vegas. I'll be there for most of the teams running in Las Vegas, and if they happen to get hot, maybe I'll just stick around for the whole thing. So until we talk to you next time, thank you so much for joining me on this edition of The Briefcase. We will talk soon. I'm Casey Holdahl. Go Blazers. And go Bahamas.